A lot of my art begins with collecting raw materials. So that could be taking photos of funny signs that I see in the park, or that could be playing cards with my nan and making a note whenever she says something funny, one of her phrases that I haven't heard before. And that could also just be going to the thrift store and finding some nice yarn. Hey everyone, my name is Ashley Hemmings. I am an artist and arts administrator from St. John's, Newfoundland. I work mostly in textiles and craft-based processes, so things like rug hooking, quilting, knitting, embroidery, anything with yarn or fabric. And usually in my practice, I'm combining these more traditional craft-based processes with other media like video, installation, performance, and sometimes things like digital illustration and bioart. Rug hooking is hugely important to the history of Newfoundland and Labrador. It started as a craft of poverty or necessity. It was a way for women to just keep the heat from escaping from the floor in their homes. And then in the 1900s, with the development of the craft industry, Newfoundland hooked rugs were sold across Europe and in the United States, and it became a way for women to make their own money or to make money for their family. Really, it was the first job a woman could have. So this is kind of the rich history of rug hooking that I'm thinking about when I make my own hooked rugs. I also get a lot of inspiration from books. I love reading poetry, and I also love reading like theoretical essays and like texts about craft and about the environment. I have one book recommendation here. So I read The New Politics of the Handmade. It's edited by Anthea Black and Nicole Burish. I read this a few months ago and I can't stop thinking about it. You can see all of my little tabs. It really kind of changed the way that I think about craft, and craft in relation to gender, craft in relation to race, craft in relation to queer theory, environmentalism. There's a lot of good in here, and I, I super recommend it. So my studio is actually just the living room of my apartment. I've been living in this apartment for about a year now, and I tend to use the living room or the kitchen as a studio, depending on what I'm working on. My studio is my living room and it's my couch, but it's also anywhere that I could bring the project that I'm currently working on. I work at Eastern Edge, which is the Artist Run Center in St. John's. And that means that I work, most days. So my art practice gets moved to the evenings or weekends. And so I love with textile processes that it's so easy to fold them up and put them away, but then to unfold them and work on them again. So even if I just have a few minutes here and there, I can still pull the project out and work on it. And the other benefit of that is like I can fold it up and put it in a backpack, and I can work on it at a friend's house, or I can work in the park. So for the past 2 years, I've been working on this ongoing series of text-based hooked rugs. The rugs draw texts from public municipal signage, as well as these phrases that my nan remembers from her childhood in rural Nova Scotia. So the signs, the texts from the signs and my nan's phrases, they're related because they both talk about the relationships between humans and nature, or between humans and animals and wildlife and other people. Yeah, so these examples are, please refrain from feeding ducks on wooden docks. That's one of my favorite signs in St. John's. I just think it's really poetic and funny. And then this is my favorite of my nan phrases. It says, "You want to know the brains of a dog's arse." And it's something that she says if you're pestering her, if you're asking her too many questions. So in the same way that the sign is telling you how to interact with the ducks, that phrase is telling you how to interact with her. That you're being nosy, you're asking too many questions, you're feeding ducks in a place where you shouldn't be. Thank you so much for tuning in to my little studio tour, for looking at my art, for listening to me talk about it. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!